Hello Year 12 Business, and welcome to today's little video that's a review of motivation and engagement in practice. So hopefully I'll make this video quite short, but when you reflect on the work that you've submitted on this particular section of the course and you look at my marking, hopefully this will help a lot, and you can make improvements and see how you did. Here we are, chapter 47. So this is in the section 6 of the course. Section 6 is the last section we need to do, and it's titled Decision Making to Improve HR Performance. So we're looking at motivation and engagement in practice. Our objectives on this particular subtopic are to be able to describe and analyse the different methods of financial and non-financial methods of motivation, to be able to make links between motivational methods in practice and the theories of Taylor, Maslow and Hertzberg, and finally to be able to evaluate, to weigh up the impact of a chosen motivational method, how it may impact on employees considering the context given, and also trying to consider what the theorists would say. So that's what we're trying to achieve at the moment. Here we are, motivation in theory. So we learnt about Taylor, who talked about the mechanical man, or the economic man, I think is a better take on it, the carrot and stick approach. So Taylor was all about financial incentives. He believed that you offered things like piece rates, which is little payments per product produced by an employee, and the employee will be driven to produce lots. Productivity will go up. So things like piece rates, financial bonuses and stuff like that. So that was what Taylor was all about. This is just a recap. Maslow with his hierarchy of needs, and depending on the particular position of the employee and the authority of a particular employee, really influenced what needs they wanted met next in order to be motivated. Finally, we had Hertzberg, so he had hygiene factors, so those were the dissatisfiers, and then he had a separate list of motivators, and his key motivators were things like making the work meaningful and enabling workers to feel a sense of achievement and stuff like that. So I don't want to dwell on motivation in theory because we've done that. So on to motivation in practice. So you need to understand, relating to our first lesson objective, the financial methods. So things like piece rates, I've already mentioned those. Performance related pay, so your pay is related to targets you are set, and how management reviews your regards your performance, and particular targets will be agreed during an appraisal. An appraisal is a meeting between a manager and his or her subordinate, and during that meeting the subordinate, the worker, would have targets set and have their performance reviewed each time, and if their performance is really good then they may earn more money. Commission, so that's similar kind of thing to piece rates. So piece rates, when a worker receives a payment per unit produced, that goes on top of their basic wage. Commission is when a similar sort of thing happens. Basic wage is paid, but then for every product sold, the employee will get an extra little bit of pay, and that's commission. And then there's also different salary schemes that aim to enhance employees' overall annual salary, yearly salary, when they work well. Few evaluation points around financial methods. So the first one is that it really, for it to work, it can't be based on the discretion of management. Otherwise it leads to a lot of anger amongst the employees and people thinking that they're being missed and not recognised for their good work, and that can lead to a lot of conflict between employees and other employees, and also employees and management. So it's really important that there's a very clear criteria that needs to be met for financial rewards to be received. That could be based on the quality of work or the quantity or both, but it needs to be clearly defined. Are financial methods really good? Well, if a business needs to increase productivity for a quick 6-month period, for example, well then yes, financial methods can be a good way, because often they can motivate for a short period of time, but then employees get used to those financial rewards and they don't have the same sort of impact on employees' behaviour and drive to work hard. Additionally, I think with financial methods and any method of motivation in practice, businesses must look back at what they've tried in the past, evaluate how well it went before they actually decide to use financial methods. And also it's worth noting that one of the problems with financial methods as to motivate the employees is that if management try to change the financial methods of motivation, it can be quite hard to do in practice because employees often benefit a lot from the existing financial methods of motivation and they don't really want much change. So there's just a few evaluation points about financial methods. Then non-financial methods, so the book directs us to job design and enrichment. So this is all about designing jobs with the person that's going to do it in mind, trying to make the job interesting, add to their sort of quality of life, if you like, giving them a sense of achievement and making the work meaningful and stuff like that. So non-financial methods, how do you design the job? Obviously in some businesses it's much easier to design a job that is interesting and enriching for the employee. Other industries where the work just simply is very mundane and boring, say a factory worker, it can be much harder to do that. But there are methods, and you can have a look at this, such as job enlargement, changing the particular jobs that an employee does from one hour to the next, so that's job rotation and things like that. Those are all part of job design. Okay, right, so the tasks were as follows. You were asked to do some sort of knowledge questions. So I'll just go back a second, just bear with me whilst I just check something here. Okay. Okay, so you were asked to do all the questions apart from 2 and 3, just at the end of the chapter, just on knowledge. So the first one is about understanding the difference between why job design may not be the key to motivation. So just have a look at those points there and make sure that you understand the limitations of job design as a non-financial method of motivation. Have a look at numbers 4 and 5 as well. A couple here I want to talk about. So when you're marking your work and uploading it, what I was looking for is that you showed really good thought and knowledge during these questions. So number 6, how does empowerment differ from delegation? That's quite an important question because there are 2 big key terms there, so make sure that you understand that. State 2, just going down to number 8, state 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages of offering staff performance related pay. Well, that's quite important because that links into the big question at the end of the data response task that I set next. So number 8, the advantages of offering staff performance related pay may encourage greater effort, may prevent a sense of unfairness if great efforts gain no extra reward. So a lot of employees may think that they're working harder than others and not getting the recognition for it. So one of the good things is that those people will feel that they are being recognised and may work even harder as a result of it. And obviously employees do work for money, depending on who they are and their position influences the degree to which that is true. But certainly it may encourage more effort across the board. Disadvantages, well, it's hard to measure exactly the performance of particular employees. There can be reasons why an employee has worked exceptionally well, but just the performance of the business overall has dipped, and that makes it seem like the employee hasn't really contributed that much. So it can be quite hard to actually organise this method of pay. Have a look at the other questions, but I want to focus really on data response. So the context for the data response was teachers, and there were some questions, some short ones. So why does the government appear to believe that teachers are motivated by money? Well, that's just a comprehension question really, so have a look at the answer to that. I'll be marking that. Apart from money, identify and explain 2 other factors that might motivate teachers. So this was a case of you going back to the theorists and trying to link some of the things that the theorists said to teachers. Have a look at that one. Number 3, explain one method that the government might use to measure the individual performance of teachers. Well, you guys know that whilst on a sort of week by week basis, teachers are always looking for your participation in classes and how much you are doing outside of lessons and how much interest and desire you are showing. But certainly it comes down to really getting those qualifications and being successful at the end of the courses. So there's some particular performance indicators that relate to that for number 3. For number 4, to what extent might teacher performance be affected by a switch to performance related pay? So at the moment this doesn't happen for teachers, but picture the scene. Teachers are paid more if their students get higher grades. Would it lead to teachers teaching even better, or would that not happen? Well, when thinking about this question, it's really important to remember a couple of things. The first one is that in teaching, the teachers have to work very closely together because they have to they co-plan lessons often, and they share resources, and there's a real sense of, in teaching, a real sense of equality, and sort of everyone has a sort of equal status. And therefore, I suppose one of the things about introducing performance-related pay is that could put those things in jeopardy. So if all of a sudden certain teachers get some good results, well, all of a sudden one teacher may think, well, that's not fair. They just had a small group of very, very focused students from the outset. My students didn't really care for my subject so much, and it could lead to that kind of this is not fair. Which could then jeopardise the joint planning and the resource sharing that's so important to teachers. So I think we've got to look at the context here, really importantly, and also just the very what's central to teaching obviously is this kind of everyone feels very equal to one another, which is really important, and performance-related pay, unless it's implemented really, really effectively. And even if it did, there's no guarantee that there wouldn't be a real disruption to that feature of teaching. The other thing to think about with teachers is that there are a shortage of them. So certainly with performance-related pay, there's some discussion there around whether or not that would draw more people into the profession or push more people out. So those are the sorts of things I'm looking for in that answer, but really key is that you think about the particular context provided, which is teaching for that one. So have a look through those bullet points. Finally, there was an essay. I wanted you to write 1 paragraph. So to what extent do you agree with the view that there is no one ideal method to motivate staff because everyone is different? So you can pause this video and just have a look at some of the sort of points I was looking out for, but I'm going to show you 2 paragraphs, and we will talk about those. So to what extent do you agree with the view that there is no one ideal method to motivate staff because everyone is different? Obviously for this sort of question, the 2 extremes are to a large extent you agree, or to no extent you agree, and then there's obviously the to some extent and stuff like that in the middle. But certainly when you come up with your initial point, it must start off your paragraph going in one direction, and then towards the end of the paragraph you can evaluate and squash or sell your initial point that you made. So the pill structure is here, looking for a good point, an explanation of that point in a sort of step-by-step way, evidence. So this is application skills referring to theory or real-life businesses, real-life markets and industries, and then finally your evaluation towards the end of paragraphs. So have a look at this paragraph. The amber text is the initial point, and the green is just a bit of evaluation at the end. So have a read through this one. So this is a really good paragraph because it's got really all the elements of PIL. It's got point, it's got it uses theory. It doesn't really refer to any particular businesses or markets, but that's okay for this particular paragraph because theories are referred to. It's got good analysis, good understanding shown when sort of developing the point in the middle, the sort of black text. The evaluation actually starts at the word however, but I've only highlighted it from the kind of link back to the question part right at the end. So that's a really, really strong paragraph. That would be getting 9 or 10 out of 10 based on the little success criteria. For number 2, have a read of this one. Okay, you might want to pause it because I'm just going to quickly sum up a few key things about this paragraph. So this paragraph, really the point is that there is no ideal method to motivate staff. So it's agreeing really with the statement to some extent. The reason being that even though there is a sense of achievement is really important in order for employees to be motivated, it's not fully the ideal way. So for employees to feel a sense of achievement, it's quite a strong way, but it's not. You can't go as far as to say it's the ideal way. So have a look at that paragraph as well. Okay, so whiz through that presentation there, but do have a look back at the paragraphs and some of my comments, especially on the data response.